Hello and welcome to the No Ratings Pod, the pod that we never do an introduction on. Today we are, because this roster, this lineup, this is Robin Duff Drogba. This is outstanding. We've got Davina.
Hey, this guy showed his age with that comparison.
Yeah, which one
Yeah.
am I? Bagsy Robin. I'm Bagsy Robin.
Listen, you can be whoever you want. It's going to be a long pod for everyone involved. I can't even think of another trio guys saying about my age. What's another trio?
Suarez, Neymar, Messi,
Messi,
MSN, BBC.
Yeah, but come on. Yeah, fine. But we're going to chat about Premier League football here. Davina off the back of a Spurs loss. James off the back of an Arsenal draw. Dev off the back of a United loss. Me on the back of a Darwin Núñez last minute winner. This is cinema, absolute cinema. Before we get into all of that, as usual, we'll start with a question that lightens the mood, because I think this one might get a little bit tense. One position in your Premier League team has to be filled by a non-Premier League player for a one-off game. What position are you giving up?
Wait, so by just a random player, you're saying?
Just we say random non-league player. So let's say you're going to take out. I'll go first. Like if I was Liverpool, I'd get rid of the goalkeeper because Liverpool survived without Alisson so many times. Like whack a non-league goalkeeper.
Get in the bin. That is a terrible shout. That is absolutely a honker. No, because if a team realizes you got a non-league keeper in goal, they're just going to start taking pot shots.
Exactly.
Yeah, but non-league keepers are not.
Goalkeeper might have a shot.
Yeah, but if you're thinking like overall, there's not that many wonderful goalkeepers in the world. There's probably like a handful. So you're it's a position that the downgrade's not going to be so bad. Like, a non-league goalkeeper's not just going to let shots in.
Well, we've already got a non-league goalkeeper. There's no point.
Yeah, but let's say the answer is if you're playing with 10 men, what position do you sacrifice? That's the real answer.
Kind of, but this you're not sacrificing because you could get a half decent non-league player.
Nah, the gap is too big. I'd play a right back because if anyone watched the Arsenal game, we weren't playing with a right back, so we'll leave it at that.
Cool. Davina?
Clearly,
could be an improvement on Spurs.
That's what I mean. I'm like, what player am I trying to replace that we already haven't got like a second string player playing in there? That I would try and get instead of.
You could get a non-league centre back. You'd get
a non-league centre back instead of Dragusin, ship him off. Yeah,
mad. Dragusin getting dragged at that level, crazy. Yeah, non-league centre backs might be decent.
I'll actually take a non-league centre back as well. No nonsense, just get the ball out.
Yeah, real.
Yeah.
You probably got two of them.
Yeah.
Hey, we're in a bad place. So we were starting on a nice one, and then like as soon as I'm getting, all right, cool. I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. Let's shift the pain to Davina because listen, Davina. Let's be honest. Can I correctly say that I feel like you've been ducking the pod for a while?
I've not been ducking the pod. Let it be known they only ever ask me to be on the pod when Tottenham lose. Bearing in mind, Tottenham have lost like 7 of the last 10 Premier League games.
So
it's
been
not
asking
been
every
like,
week.
Yeah. But I was away. December's always a busy time. November's birthday month. I've not been ducking it. It's just also coincided with a really depressing Tottenham period. So my bad.
Hey, listen. I know, like this time round, kudos to me. I asked you before the result. And you were already preempting that I was
literally like, cool, we're definitely going to lose, but I'll be there. It's an away game, so I wouldn't be there, so it makes sense, you know?
Well, take me to where you are now then. What's going on in Davina's mind in this world of yours?
I think there's for me, I think there's a massive difficult stance that some of us have to take because I've backed Ange online. I've backed him if we sack him, where do we go? Sacking Ange doesn't magically bring back our preferred starting 11. It doesn't magically sort out the fact that we still have to go to Anfield away. We've got Villa in the cup, which is still holding us on. And it doesn't magically fix the fact that we don't know how to score a goal properly. If Ange gets sacked, who are you going to bring in right now? Ryan Mason will come in, and I think it's okay for anyone who's been Ange in to now understand people who have been Ange out. Some people are willing to die on that hill, but now as an Ange in person, what I'm trying to say, long-winded, I'm just word vomiting, is that I can understand where people are coming from when they're so confidently saying Ange out, because the form that we're on and the type of football that we're playing is so scarily depressing that we can't even get anything out of a team that shouldn't be 15th.
You're not even losing though. You're getting piped at the moment. It's
That's the thing. Like, even today, the scoreline gives us a way better reflection of what happened in that game than it should. Like, we got absolutely like dominated that whole game. Cool, if you're scoring goals in like the last 10 minutes, that's not you being good. That's the opposition perhaps getting tired. It was the same against Tamworth. Like, you suddenly scoring a few.
Do you know how crazy that sentence is?
Not though. Even then, I was like, I'm not even going to celebrate this game, because you should be winning 3-0 in the first 30 minutes. You shouldn't have to wait to bring on Kulusevski and Solanke on a 3G pitch to like win against National League. Like, that is crazy. If you can't get anything out of these players, there's only so far that you can go. Like, Ange, injuries.
Do you think they're still playing for him, Davina?
It's tough because we have some players who are so clearly vocal. Like, Romero's come out and said it, that he's backing the manager and like, we need help in the window, blah, blah, blah. Kulusevski's also like a really vocal leader. But other than that, no other Spurs players are like actively throwing a tantrum. So it's difficult to see that they've downed their tools. But I just don't think that the players don't care. I think they're just exhausted, knackered. Like, all of our players that are playing every game they've just got no like fight in them, strength in them left, because they know that, cool, like, our centre-backs are not coming back until like February. Injury after injury after injury keeps happening. Like, Solanke out for 6 weeks, Brennan Johnson out, Basuma out after one game against Arsenal is crazy. So it's just sort of like, you don't see a way out of what the situation that we're in right now.
It's interesting you say that, because Arsenal actually have a really similar situation, even though we're second in the table. But with the injuries, some of the players, like, you got certain players like Declan Rice. Are you going to say there's not enough injuries at Arsenal?
No. It was just how.
Not you. Not you.
It was a little
Davina.
comment where you said like, could put second in the league. I think me and Nubay.
Yeah, it was the structure of the sentence was very specific. You said, "Look, we got the same issues, but we're second in the league." Like,
but I guess obviously squad building comes down to it massively. But Ange, there's no excuse to be 15th. What is quite funny to me is that you've got plus 10 goal difference, and West Ham, who are above you, have minus 16. How? I don't know how you've managed that.
I'll tell you why. Tell you how we've managed that is because, like, up until the Liverpool game, the 6-3, I was even dying on this hill that, we've played well because we've only ever lost by 1 goal. So that was not hindering our goal difference at all. And then obviously that happened. But up until that point, I was really on the side of like, it's actually not Ange's fault. He's like coaching a 2-0 win and the players are just messing up because they're not his first choice players. But at this point, like, out of like, it's just crazy the opposition that we're losing to. And this Dr. Tottenham jibe, right? Like, Ipswich got their first Prem win against us. Crystal Palace got their first Prem win against us. Like, Dominic Calvert-Lewin not scoring since September, and then Tottenham 13 minutes in, let me score. It's just absolutely exhausting.
But the thing is,
you can know, but Ange Postecoglou with the current starting 11 should be able to coach a draw. Doesn't have to coach. He doesn't have to coach that much attacking football. No, I'm at the level where you're 15th in the league. You're not like 3 points off top 4 where you're going to go for the win because the points are going to no. You're 15th.
He's dying on his sword. That's what he's doing. He's being stubborn, and it's probably going to cost him his job. And then after the game, when the interviewer says, it's becoming familiar for you.
That was weird. His reaction to that was so odd because he was right. Like, the reporter was right to ask him that, but it was like, it's clear that there's an insecurity that's like seeping in.
He's also just vexed, right? Yeah. Like, they keep losing, and every time he keeps getting asked, like, are you going to change your style? And because he said it so many times that I'm not going to change my style, he's now at the point where he's like, I think he since the get-go, he's kind of been like, I want to remove this like stigma that Spurs are Spursy. I want to remove this stigma that we don't win trophies. So I win trophies in my second season. And he kept going on about this theory that he's had.
And now he's gone so far deep in it that like every time he does an interview, he's going to get asked, and every time he gets asked, now happens to be after they've lost a game they shouldn't have lost. And so now it's like, yeah, bro, like something's got to give here.
I think that's poor leadership, though, the way he acts in interviews. Because if you're looking to your manager to like kind of talk big, and then he comes into essentially sulking in interviews, and I'm like, this guy at the end of the game, I don't know what he's like in the dressing room. I can't speak for that, but the way he acts in interviews, I just don't think that is the sort of mentality you'd want from your manager. You wouldn't want your manager sulking. You'd want your manager to kind of stand up and say, I know why we got it wrong, but we got it wrong. I'm proud of the boys. We'll go again. But he just, I don't know.
The problem for him is though, bro,
It's
like
happened too many times now to say that, hasn't it? So.
Yeah,
like,
true.
pride ain't gonna win you football matches at this stage.
It's not even winning us football matches. It's not even getting us a point on the board. Like that is what is really hard, because, okay, we understand we have like a full starting 11 out. Obviously, he's not playing with his ideal players, but the whole point about being a Premier League level coach, like a Big Six coach, should be about being adaptable. He's not going to have gone to every single club and had every single player that he's wanted fit. Like, you're never going to be a manager and your career is going to be so easy sailing, right? You should be able to adapt with the quality of players that you have, and you should be able to coach at least like a 1-1 or not concede that many goals in such a stupid way.
And what you're saying as well is, maybe for the first few games when he had those injuries, fine, do that.
Do that trying and testing, right?
But it's not working. Everyone can see that. So maybe now try something else, or you will get sacked. And Daniel Levy doesn't want to sack him.
He's also, the board has also come out and said like really clearly that they've got like belief in Ange, but they also stated like today's game was kind of a must-win game. And I think the only reason why Daniel Levy hasn't pulled the trigger, I know, Nabeed, you're shaking your head. I only know the reason why Daniel Levy hasn't pulled the trigger is I don't think there's a clear and obvious replacement for him right now, given that the club is 15th and no manager is going to want to come to a club where they're not. Like, it's just crazy. And also, semi-final is looming. We've not been knocked out of a competition yet. I think that week where we go to Anfield, we don't win, and then get knocked out against Villa in the FA Cup, everything's just going to come crashing down, and that cup delirium is going to become like really real.
Wasn't it Mourinho you sacked right before a final?
Yeah.
Like Daniel Levy could easily do that before the Anfield game. It'd be so stupid to do that.
Did you ever hear the politics behind the Mourinho one? It was really weird. There was I think it was Jamie Redknapp, a voice recording leaked of him saying there was a clause in Mourinho's contract that if he got sacked while they were top 6 or top 4,
he got like 5 million extra payout. So if the club performed worse, and Mourinho was still in the job, then you wouldn't have, if Mourinho wasn't there, then we wouldn't have to pay him. So he was basically banking on the fact that if they sacked Mourinho, it was cheaper to do so before Tottenham placed higher.
Do you know how mad that is? Over 5 million.
Yeah.
Like,
5
considering
million.
how desperate Spurs are, respectfully, for a trophy, like that desperation has no value, in my opinion. Like the fact that your owner, or I don't know exactly where he sits on the board, but like the geezer who makes the decision said, "Hey, listen, I prefer the pain.
Yeah.
let's give it to Ryan Mason, who's never managed a game in his life. Somehow he's got a coaching job after
the graphics when it was like trophies won, Guardiola like 40, or it's games managed or something.
Yeah.
Ryan Mason.
I think Ryan Mason's like stat on there was like played 76 times for Tottenham, and I was like, this your Gaffer's played 76 times for Tottenham before a final. It's not right. I don't know. Like, I have more sympathy for Ange than I think most people do, mainly because I'm split, right? Like, Dev will know this. Me and you have debated this so many times about Ten Hag.
Mm-hmm.
Ten Hag changed so many times that he forgot who he was, and then that killed him. Ange is going, I won't change at all. And then I just watched a video earlier, and I don't know if you guys have seen it, but like Guardiola's talking in Spanish about how he has to play through the middle and how he'll never change that principle, because the moment you do that, you're gone.
Yeah.
That's where I'm like, well, he's stuck now. Like, this is his thing. This is how he's got to the Spurs job.
And I do sympathise, to be fair, because obviously, like I've got the thing with Ten Hag, but it was like there was a graphic that came out that showed a lineup of Spurs, and I didn't have any context behind it because obviously I haven't been tracking Spurs, but I saw the lineup and I thought, oh, not great, but not terrible, like a decent Prem side. And then it was like, oh, these are the ones that are unavailable for today's game. And it got to a point where the unavailable 11 was probably as good,
Stronger.
if not better than the current 11 you've got. So I do sympathize with him with that, because whatever momentum you can get, you can't build. But also, with the system thing, if I'm a manager, I would look at Vincent Kompany as the best example of, you stick to your principles, even if it doesn't work out where you are. There's going to be a suitor out there that likes the way you play, and he's off at Bayern. So I'm thinking with Ange, like you spend a good amount of money, you've got the ability to play really good football and get some really good results. But at this point, I think it's after this Everton game, it's eked into dangerous territory where things could actually go really, really dark. But
I'd argue that it was dangerous territory before this game, which is why I thought this game was such a must-win. I mean, like, what are we, like 4 points above Everton, and they have that game in hand against Liverpool? Like, that is way too close. I know United aren't far off, but
3 points.
like, it's at a stage where, like, it's like James said, right? It's completely understandable for the first couple of games where you have injuries, you don't have your preferred starting 11. You test it to see if your system is working. And as injuries have accumulated, there've been games where, for example, the Chelsea game where we lost, you go 2-0 up, you should be able to not then lose 4-3. Yeah. You should be able to at least see the game out to a 2-2. I don't even think I'm asking for much to blow a 2-goal lead just because you haven't got your proper players.
Was that at home as well against?
It's at home. And it's just like, I don't understand how you go from that 2-0 up to not being able to manage your players, coach them. This is what you got to do. Play out the game. Like, it's just been capitulation after capitulation. We've scored first in a lot of games. Then we're like, yeah, what does it mean though?
The other problem is, if we're talking about like Guardiola saying he sticks to his principles, Guardiola's principles are inherently controlling, whereas Ange's principles are chaos. So if you're going to play like that, then you need two different styles. You can't have only chaos, because, as you say, when you're 2-0 up, it's not healthy to be only chaos. Now, you might win some of those games 4-1, but you'll lose as many games 3-2 or draw them 2-2. So I feel like it's a sort of managerial style that will get you so many plaudits at certain teams, and that's why going up through the ranks, he's had so much success. But then when you become a team like Tottenham in the position you're in, you need to adapt and kind of find different layers to your game. And he hasn't done that. He's persisted with his way. And I don't know, it'll be interesting to see if he gets a different job after this Spurs one, because I can't see where... I said this, Nubaid, we had a podcast about a month ago, and we had the same chat, Ange out or in, and I said, it's not going to change from here. And it hasn't. So I think he's got to go.
But okay, so that's where I was going to go here.
If he goes to that's
what I'm saying. Like, what are you doing?
That's the thing. And I think, like, I can sit here and I can criticize Ange. It's obviously not who I place the majority of the blame with. I still stand by the fact that our board has not recruited well. They've gone into this transfer window knowing how many injuries we've had. We've not signed a single outfield player. And it's like going to be 20 days into January, which is absolutely insane. I thought we were on some serious business thing when we signed Kinski, like second day of the transfer window. And then we're like, yeah, cool, we're not even linked with anyone. Absolutely linked with absolutely no one. Like, normally I'm on it with the transfer window, the transfer targets, everything. I'm just like, who the hell are we even linked to? To solve any of our problems. Now Solanke's injured, Richarlison's not going to stay fit for like 20 minutes in the next game. And then what? What happens there? Also, where do our goals even come from?
Like this Kinky fella, he was... you just grabbed him from some random team, respectfully. So it's like, I don't even think like you were on business when you bought him. I think you literally just were like, we just need a guy who's got a decent release clause and he's cheap as hell. And he had a good game, obviously, against Liverpool, but he's just a regular goalkeeper.
Like, not an experienced player. Like, he's very young, and like his first 3 games, bearing in mind Tamworth, but Liverpool and Arsenal.
Yeah, bless him. He had a tough one.
Bless him, like, that's insanity. Premier League debut, North London derby at the Emirates.
But honestly, that's so, like, I'm not even being horrible, but that's so Spurs. Yeah. Like, just start Brandon Austin or start Whiteman or whatever his name is. Yeah. Like, let those guys...
Whiteman's a DJ. Can't take him away from him.
But listen, if you...
It's a DJ.
No, actually legit.
Yeah, he's a DJ. He does like gigs and stuff. And
Why
I
is this
have him
guy
on
behaving like he's a
Letterboxd.
part-time
He
footballer
like
for
does
San
really
Marino?
detailed film reviews and stuff. He's a really artsy guy.
Oh, excellent.
Personality away from football is great.
Yeah,
I don't know
you've
how
got to
he
do
is.
something nowadays, isn't it? Like, if it's not paying the bills, I'm not.
Let's find his letterbox and we'll do a quick pod of just a review of his letterbox and see how he's getting on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really want my goalkeeper being a DJ, you know? Like, that's,
thing-
you know, like, that's, sorry, it's so
Who's like our
random.
fourth choice
Yeah, but
DJ.
Fourth choice DJ.
Fourth choice DJ.
probably he's your fourth choice DJ as well. No, like, I remember when Ramsdale did that interview, and I thought that character I don't want for a goalkeeper. Like Pickford as well is a character I don't want for a goalkeeper, but he's making it like cook. My goalkeeper, you are meant to be the calmest fella in the team. You're a DJ. Like you're playing Avicii 24/7. Like you're not all right, bro. I don't know, just my personal perspective. But anyway,
he's our fourth choice. I think he's only
Also-
ever played like pre-season.
Also, maybe in the modern game you do want a keeper to be calm, but historically it's always been like the mad keepers were the best.
yeah, they're all
It's like
cracking.
Jens Lehmann. Jens Lehmann turned around one game and just went for a piss behind the goal.
Well, it's because
Yeah.
the game was about intimidation. Like back then, the game was a lot about individual quality, and you kind of had to outfox your striker and like by being intimidating and claiming your area. But now it's all like your system is making your goalkeeper's life easier or harder, and in order to do that, you kind of need your goalkeeper to do the fundamentals well. We'll get onto this when we talk about my team, but to do the fundamentals well, and then to instill calmness and like some sort of solidity so that the system can work, because without them it just falls apart. So now it's just completely different, like because otherwise Onana would have been great in 2003, but now he is where he is. But
Also, Dev, with the way keepers used to get protected, keepers just used to get battered. So if you weren't mad and willing to put your head with, you just concede so many goals.
very good point. Yeah,
Because some of the keepers nowadays, Vicario, who actually has been quite good this season from a shot stopping point of view, because I looked earlier, he is a prime example of someone who would not have survived in the early thousands.
No, he gets pushed over
he
a
does
lot.
get pushed out. It's the same with De Gea when we had him, but I because we'll get on to the Brentford Arsenal game, but and the Villa Arsenal game, sorry, but the Martinez, I felt in that game just went down at every single
Yes, he did.
possible
Yes, he
opportunity.
did. It annoys me so much.
But he does it and it's like gamesmanship, but we all know why he's doing it. But in terms of goalkeeping, I agree.
It's mad with him as well because he's one of the strongest keepers out there. When he wants to
he's
be,
wham. He's wham.
he
He's a
can
unit, that guy.
really claim crosses. But then there's just moments where there was a time when the ball comes in, just gets like a nudge in the back, just goes down. I'm like, well, get up, man.
He knows the
Just
rules.
really well me up.
He's good though. He's like he's. I mean, this is why. I mean, penalties your bags, but this is why he's so good at saving pens. Like it's so mental with him. Before we move on from Tottenham and talk about Dev's favorite topic in the world, goalkeepers. Davina, Ange in or Ange out?
Crazy.
Like you haven't thought about this before. Like, oh wow, what a unique question.
No, I've been having this argument in my own head, also in my own living room with my dad and my brother. This whole household is depressed today. My mum was just like, I can't be with this depressed vibe, and she just went in the kitchen. But it was I'm still very much Ange in, but just be a little bit more adaptable. I'm Ange in because I don't blame him. Like I blame the resources that he's got. He's been dealt a really, really bad hand this season, and he's not got the support that he should have from a club like Tottenham. Just in terms of being backed in the transfer window, the club are well aware. It's not like the players that they've got are horrible. It's we have no players.
Can I ask you a question, Davina? Where does, for you, Ange rank in the post-Pochettino managers? Like, in terms of where you can talk about your expectations before and then like kind of the reality, but if like when all is kind of said and done, let's say if he did get sacked tomorrow, and it was all kind of got a full stop to it, like who do you look back on with the most fondness after that Poch era?
I think like my favorite, when this is crazy, I think Conte, the season that we finished fourth, we played some very good football. We had good players. I think that was first. I'd arguably then say probably Mourinho, because I didn't agree with the fact that he got sacked. Right. In the league, we weren't great, but that first like September to December, not bad. I mean, we beat Arsenal, we drew against Chelsea, we beat Man City, like COVID football, Mourinho. then probably Postecoglou, and then like the 3 months we had with,
Bro,
yeah.
Postecoglou's low, man. What the hell?
That is quite. I expected him to be a bit higher than that.
Yeah.
What, Postecoglou to be
It's
higher?
also recency bias because of the pain that he's been.
No, but I don't think I know. But just thinking about Postecoglou, right? Like since up until that Chelsea 4-2 last season, Postecoglou was great.
Mhm.
And if we're just ranking that, then yeah. But after that, if you look at Tottenham's result, we've not been great. We've not been great for a while. And like sometimes we'll go through a run of like, 3 really good games, then we get battered 4-0 by Newcastle, or then battered 3-0 by Fulham. Like the consistency is not there.
Yeah.
So it's hard, even with the recency bias, it's difficult to string good results together to then say, yeah, we've been good for a significant period of time. I can't bulk out like more than 5 games that Postecoglou's Tottenham have been good, other than like August to November of his first season.
Yeah, you won the league in November, didn't you?
I'll give it a rest.
She's already hurting,
joking,
man.
okay? I was
She's so
joking.
serious right now. She's so serious. James is just like, let me just keep winding her up. She don't need more.
Well, actually,
Yeah, I
sorry.
think
This is I don't know when the last time we spoke, Davina, but you've had far too much abuse for this, so I don't condone the abuse. But the floor
I've just kept it there now as a
just
joke.
kept going. Outrageous. The history. Oh my goodness. I keep getting brought up that with me. Yeah.
No,
your
I've
floor
like
is
literally I started my new job in November, and on my first day, someone was like, "Yeah, I follow you on Twitter, and I only know you because of that tweet."
Oh man.
Because he's an Arsenal fan and he follows you, James.
Imagine that was
And he
HR.
was like, literally, he was like, I know you on Twitter because on my bag I have a little tiny Spurs pin, and he was like, I know you from Twitter, and the only reason I know you is because the floor ceiling tweet. And I was like, it's great, it's great.
Hey, no ratings on the map.
Listen, hey, that's why we're here, you know. People are rating you for bad takes. And listen, James normally complains that you keep getting people cooked. This is why I get people cooked, man. You might get a promotion just because he's seen you on social media. And you will owe 20% of your wage to me. Also, I want you to, when this goes out, I want you to go back and listen to yourself say the word battered. You're the most southern person I probably know, but you sounded so battered. All right, let's talk about Dev's favourite subject. Goalkeepers. What's going on, Dev?
I'm going to watch it. I haven't seen it.
Listen, my earliest recollection of Man United was during a goalkeeper crisis, and I'm a bit too young to remember Schmeichel, but I remember Barthez, I remember Carroll, I remember Taibbi, I remember Tim Howard for the second season. I remember all these great pretenders to the throne of Peter Schmeichel, and I just thought that we haven't gone there. I don't care what anyone says, like those goalkeepers were a lot worse. The teams were a lot better and we were during transitions, but those goalkeepers individually were worse. But I watch Onana and someone said this and I cannot get it out of my head. For better or worse, I get Barthez vibes whenever I watch him. It's either going to be something truly spectacular, that's good, or truly spectacular, that's bad. And with Barthez, at least he was a World Cup winning goalkeeper. He did claim his area. He was courageous and he was all this. And I was very vocal when we got rid of De Gea that there were bits of De Gea where shot stopping, he's the best of my lifetime, best I've ever seen. He's better than Van der Sar shot stopping, De Gea. He was unbelievable. And in all the other areas of the game, Van der Sar was better. And I'm talking, like we said earlier, about that calmness, that resilience, that leadership from the back. No one can touch Van der Sar from that element. So those were the 2 goalkeepers I'd grown up with. And then Onana comes in and you saw what he did with Inter, and his shot stopping reel wasn't good. It was kind of average for a top goalkeeper. So I didn't expect him to make flying saves. I kind of expected him to make up for the lack of incredible stopping by being calm, by distributing well, and by claiming his area, because no matter what anyone says about De Gea, he was very bad at that. As in, he was our Vicario, with no disrespect. It's just in terms of the fact that they were quite slender guys who struggled to come out for the ball and got bullied when other opposition sort of figured that out. Like people were starting doing Arsenal corners on us before Arsenal even, put the mural of their set piece.
I remember, man.
Do you know what I mean? Everyone knew that was the easy way to get to De Gea. But on Onana, I mean, like, there's certain things I could go in on him for, like in terms of some of the mistakes he's made. But I've come to the conclusion that he lacks some of the fundamentals that you need to be a good Premier League goalkeeper to keep up with the pace of this league. And that is, you're supposed to be the one who shuts down the angles properly. You're supposed to be the one that gives, like, I'm a goalkeeper myself. I play in goal whenever I do, but I analyze that position probably more than most. And it's the one I can say I know more about. When an opponent is through on Onana, you're supposed to limit the options that player has. Either you come out and make yourself big, or you stay on your line and you kind of make them figure it out and you use your reflexes to bail you out. Onana hasn't got the second option, so he relies on the first. So, and every time he comes out, he gets his, I would say 8 or 9 times out of 10, he gets the decision wrong on his timing. And whether he chooses to jump to close the angle, he chooses to slide, or he chooses to stay on his feet, he tends to get that wrong quite a lot of the time. And today, you just think, I look back at Bayern Munich in his first season. I look back on so many, like Galatasaray. I look back on so many key moments in games where he has a howler. I can only think back to one with Bartes. Bartes had a few howlers. He had one against Liverpool as well. I think the Heskey header. But he had one against you lot. He had 2 against Arsenal. And we're there talking about, he was terrible. He was this. His first season, he was outstanding. One of the best goalkeepers in the league. I think we won the league when he was there. And then he had a poor second season. This is 1.5 consistent seasons of Onana being below par. And at Manchester United, the one key word that goes against all of our team, whether you say it's lack of mentality, which is clearly there, but it's vulnerability. There is a massive vulnerability within that side. And when our defense are getting used to a new system, they're bringing in an 18-year-old who still needs to learn the ropes on the job as well. When you've got all of those in place, and Davina, you'll probably say the same with like Archie Gray and like other young players you're bringing in, the one thing you'd want as a young defender, like we did with Evra, like we did with Vidic, is to look back at your goalkeeper and say, okay, cool, he's got my back. I can't think that there are many defenders in that team that can look back at Onana and think, it's all right, we've got him. They're probably there thinking, I have to pull a Hail Mary out because we have to rely on him. Whether they say it in their heads or they express that in their gameplay, this is why I see De Ligt going in for challenges he shouldn't and sliding off the turf at Anfield. Or it's why I see Dalot overcommitting against, Minter before he puts the cross in, because he's scared of getting a shot off straight at Onana, even with the wrong foot. So I've tried to back him, and I want to back a player at Manchester United, and being the number 1 here is a tough job, but Bayindir or Onana wouldn't be a number 1 in the top 10 of Premier League teams, maybe even top 15, and that's not good enough. So both of them aren't ready to play for us.
Can we rewind a second to what I said at the start about goalkeepers? See? You can replace a Premier League goalkeeper because the distance is actually like you have like a handful of guys right at the top. And then everyone else is just jumbled together. And it's like Leno made a mistake this weekend as well, I think. And he made a mistake last weekend as well. All these guys, like, there's a non-league goalkeeper out there that can have a good game. The Tamworth goalkeeper, Jazz Singh, legend.
Amazing game.
Bro, one of our own as well.
Yeah,
listen, like that can happen for one game. Anyway.
But you know the one today, just to complete the point on Onana, like that, there are certain things where like his positioning isn't good enough, his diving isn't good enough, he doesn't spread his body out, he doesn't get the range on his like stretch when he goes for a save. But today was probably the worst one because I have no idea how he actually made that fumble. That's not bad technique, that's just a lack of
that's mental, man. That's mental. That's just like concentration.
Yeah, but it doesn't make any sense. He's probably there thinking goalkeepers do this, where it's so simple. He's probably misthought about how simple it is. He's thinking where he's going to distribute it to. So his head's not even there with him. Number 1 rule of a goalkeeper: make sure your hands are actually on the ball before you decide where you're going to throw it. It's one of the simplest things. He's there, and there's a still, and I've tweeted it, so you'll find it. There's a still where you can see where Pedro is, or whoever scored. I think it was Pedro. You can see where he is in relation to when the ball hits Onana's hand. There's a good few seconds before Pedro gets the ball. In football, that's like Formula 1. That's a long time to make a choice. And then when he makes the decision, he looks defeated, and Pedro gets the goal. And then you just see his head collapse. And there's still 30 odd minutes left in the game. You can still turn it around. We did against Southampton, and we did against quite a few other better teams this year. You can still turn it around. Your head is on the floor, and your centre-backs are looking at you thinking, what can we rely on?
Yeah, this comes to what we were saying earlier. Like James had first-hand experiences from Ramsdale to Raya. Remember all the uproar when that happened because people were like, "Whoa, like this is wrong." People saying this is wrong because you loaned Raya first, didn't it? Mm-hmm. And then Like, was that?
It was a loan with the
obligation
to buy. So.
But it was random because it was like that was probably an area you didn't really need to upgrade.
two similar level
expected,
goalkeepers as well. Like
no one
out.
expected us to do that.
Yeah, so I see that and go, the reason you can see the reason why they did that. Raya comes and claims crosses. He's much calmer. I think people often look at goalkeepers and go, he makes 6 saves. Like Vicario makes some really good saves, but then he goes and does like the randomest thing a minute later because like he's just I think there's a slight gap between like the elite goalkeepers and everyone else, and it really is just mental.
Yeah.
Like it's just like Raya's save, was it this season, James, where he like clawed it back when he wasn't even looking. He was looking the other way. Like that's like pure goalkeeping that Onana could do.
The one against Villa. There was one.
Yeah,
against
where
Villa
Watkins heads it. I think. Yeah.
Well, Martinez. I remember Martinez did one against Forest. I think it's one of the best saves I've ever seen when he claws it back. That's genuinely, I think, the best save in Prem history.
I think Vicario had one against City earlier this season, maybe.
Yeah.
Like I think every goalkeeper has the capacity to do that. It's like a forward scoring from 40 yards out on an odd occasion. It's the other bits that I think the top goalkeepers do better than others. And like I said, like James, you've definitely got like first-hand experience because the upgrade from Ramsdale to Raya, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not as close to it as you, but it is like so obvious.
Yeah, and it's also impossible to quantify because people talk about XG prevented and stuff like this. But if a keeper is really good at cross claiming, then they will prevent shots from coming in because they will command their box. If they are so comfortable on the ball that they can have a few extra seconds on the ball without kicking it out of play, then that gives the opposition press, it makes them come onto you, it opens spaces up the rest of the pitch. So it's interesting as well because one thing Ramsdale used to do, which fans love, is like wind up and piss off the away fans. I think we've spoken about this before, Nubaid. Problem is, once the away fans start doing that and getting onto the keeper, that starts creating an energy. You might enjoy it. You might think it's funny. But then your players think, all right, we're smelling blood. Pass it to the defender, they're smelling blood. So it doesn't benefit you. You don't want your keeper to be a circus. And with the Onana thing as well, like I would much rather a keeper that is solid, that is solid and consistent, and then you know what you're going to get, and then the rest of the team can do their thing.
Yeah.
Rather than a keeper who might save you 2 games but will cost you 2 other games because it's so unpredictable. And just on Onana, the last thing I want to say is I think his kicking has been quite disappointing as well. He seems to have had a regression in his kicking. He came in as someone who was very good on the ball, and that seems to be something that he's no longer standing out for, and if anything is quite poor at. So
I can tell you why that is because I'm not, like I said it in the last pod that I was on you with, I'm not a very big tactician of it, but the reason he's not good with kicking in the Amorim system is because it sounds stupid, there's a player in the way. So when he used to have a kind of 4 at the back, usually the fullbacks will either push on and you've got the wingers pushing on like they used to, or you have that movement infield where one's dropping deep, usually your CDM. We didn't have much of that in the first season. That's why when he did get good at kicking, he kind of had to find someone each time. And his passing accuracy was exceptional. And it always kind of has been. But then in the Amorim system, he's usually got either De Ligt screaming for it on the edge of the box, or he's got Maguire in his way when he's trying to go infield to Mainu, or he's got no option up front because our only striker, unless you're Xerxes, who did quite well in the first half of today's game and won the penalty fair and square. But when a Højlund is there trying to have a wrestling match with Konate and Van Dijk at the same time, why would you kick it up to him? And if Højlund's hold-up play was better, the stats would be better as well. But you said something really key then about XG. With Onana, like his XG goals prevented, or however that's quantified, that was a lot better this season than most of the goalkeepers. But the reason for that, and I said this at the time, is because there is so little security with Onana. People are just going to take pop shots and hope for the best with him. Therefore, overall, because he catches a ball that every goalkeeper should catch, that counts as a goal prevented. But realistically, if I look at times where he bailed us out, this is the true mark of any top goalkeeper. When you bail us out of trouble, I can say in Southampton, he actually bailed us out of trouble, because I can say with a ricochet for the own goal is what it is. Like Ugarte didn't know much about it, neither did he, is what it is. But there was a double save he made just before that, and he did brilliantly throughout the rest of the game to actually calm things down. Like when Sulemana was having Yoro on toast, like for his his intro to the Prem, and he still saved us multiple times at the Stretford end, which was getting very aggy as well. He actually stood up and was counted for. But today, And we'll get onto our game, but there's so many reasons why I'm upset with how we approached it. I know Nana, unfortunately, you can't progress much further as a club with a goalkeeper like him. So I like him. I think he's a good guy. He does great things off the pitch with his foundation, and he's used Man United and in a great way with that. But I'm sorry, as a footballer, you are a bit of a circus, and I think he has to go. That is the end of it.
Deep. I'm not going to let you talk more on Manchester United because I feel like this circus is going to carry on for the next few weeks. But what I did notice during the game was United are 2 points ahead of Tottenham, which is so weird to me because in my mind, Tottenham are having a worse season. I don't know why. Maybe because Amarim's come in and that's clouded my judgment a little bit. But Tottenham are only 8 points off Wolves and Ipswich, which also makes no sense.
10 points off,
and United are 10 points off. This is a really
ludicrous. Each other mid-Feb as well.
I know, man.
It's going to be the most hilarious. It's going to be a 5-4 to someone. It's going to be stupid. The last one was 4-3 for the Carabao Cup in it, so it could be. It's going to be. Game.
Genuine question, Davina. I'm actually serious face because I know you don't want any trolling. Serious face.
Okay.
Out of these two teams, genuinely, bear in mind Everton just got a new gaffer and Moisey's definitely keeping them up. Wolves got a new gaffer and they're probably going to stay up. West Ham got a new gaffer. They're probably going to stay up, leaving you and United side by side. Genuinely, is there any danger of either of these two teams getting dragged into a relegation dogfight?
Famous last words. No, I don't think so. I'd hope not, because again, both of our teams inconsistent, but we're capable of having one win, then lose two, and then one win, and then lose two, and hopefully getting those 3 points will keep us.
Yeah,
will keep us there. I'm not promising a top half finish. I'm not.
I know we're both mid-table. Well. We have to accept that. We're both going to be nasty.
Spurs have Leicester at home next. Ipswich have Liverpool away. So by the next game, unless you don't beat Leicester at home, which would be an absolute travesty, right, then you'll be 9 points ahead, which is pretty comfortable.
I looked at that fixture and I thought, Leicester also, if you'd flip the coin, Leicester also probably looking at that going, we could possibly do something here. Do you know what I mean?
Tottenham playing at home doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Same with us.
Leicester playing football doesn't mean anything. They are horrible. Someone said something quite funny though as well, because Leicester got Van Nistelrooy as manager off the back of United beating Leicester twice.
Yeah.
So essentially, they were so shit that Ruud smashed them twice, and then they're like, "Hey, this manager's quite good." They
bring him in,
and then they're like, "Oh, maybe we were the problem."
We're gonna have no slander against Ruud. Terrible. Nothing against Ruud.
Yeah, bro. I do also like Ruud. Obviously, nowhere near as much as you, but he's not a good manager at this level right now.
No, but regardless if it's Ruud's fault, they are just a bad football.
Yeah, they're
club.
not good.
But they got a new manager, and they're like, maybe it wasn't the manager. Maybe we're just really bad at football.
Yeah, I don't know who did their recruitment, man.
We've already drawn against them once, so
But who looked at odds on Edouard when he was playing at Palace and said, yeah, a little loan with a potential option of 20 million would make sense. I don't know who's been doing that recruitment.
Since they won the Premier League, their business has been.
Who was that?
Poor.
I remember the next season after they won the league, they bought Islam Slimani for 30 million. And I thought
30 million. Yeah,
that's not gonna get you.
Also, bro, I was like, you were cooking with a fast, short striker.
Yeah.
Why the hell did you buy an 8 foot tall big show up there? It makes no sense whatsoever. Anyway, we only have 10 minutes because Davina's got a very important thing to get to because she's ducking a pod. James, talk to me. You drew 2-2 after being 2-0 up. And,
you've been waiting 40 minutes for this.
Hey, listen. I can't tell you, Arsenal fans, listen, not you, James, specifically, but Arsenal fans, James knows a season and a half ago, I was sat here singing Arsenal to win the league. The only reason I'm not doing that now, I'm sorry, Davina, the only reason I'm not doing that now is because I've got to know more Arsenal fans online, and I cannot stand them.
Most unlikable fan base.
So you lot are so jarring us.
You ruined it for yourselves because you actually ruined it for yourselves.
I don't want to say too much, but there are a lot of Arsenal fans that I also don't agree with online. And I thought the handball incident, initially I genuinely didn't know when I first saw the replay. But there are some people after 2 hours who are going, no way, this is hitting him in the chest.
So I don't understand.
And someone tweeted, like, it's crazy how much football blinds people. Like, football fandom, you will look at something that is so obviously a handball, and you will fans will still be like, nah, but can we see the third and the fourth angle, please? It was a handball. And to be fair to VAR, I said it on Twitter, VAR got that quite quickly. Because on first viewing, I was like, But you watch it a few times and you're like, yeah, it's a handball. And Havertz, by the way, absolute shameless. The fact that he celebrated, the way he celebrated. He did this was it against Spurs, Davina? Or no, it was against Liverpool. Who was it against? I can't remember who it was against. Havertz scored for Chelsea. It was a handball, really clear handball, and he wheels off celebrating.
He thinks he's on at that point, doesn't he? Like, you are going to get.
And then VAR did it. VAR overturned it, and he goes, "What? What?" It was a shot. I don't know what team it was, but he shot. The keeper saved it, and then it came off his hand on the way in. I think it was against Liverpool. I saw it earlier, but he's got a habit of just scoring with his hand and then going, oh, VAR won't notice. It was a clear handball. Arsenal fans, what really annoys me as well is there are some decisions that you have a right to be annoyed about. If people want to go on about the Trossard and the Rice one, absolutely agree. If people want to go on about the Saliba one, I'd agree and say, yeah, I'm not sure it was. But if you start talking about these decisions that are so obviously not a farce, then you just look stupid and no one's going to take you seriously during any decision. I saw someone today. This is so funny. Someone said it's weird because they only overturned it after Gary Neville said on commentary.
Because they hear him.
Maybe they said maybe VAR have Sky Sports on in the VAR room. I was like, listen to yourself speak.
I cannot hear it. It just doesn't make any sense to me that like you would be this obsessed with your club that you think every force of nature wants you not to win it. Like it's just.
And last week we benefit from a ref decision as well. We benefit from the Spurs, the ball, and people turned around to me and they're like, James, why are you not saying that the ball's gone out of play? I was like, yeah, it hit Trossard. What do you want me to do? I'm not going to start tweeting every time. No, that was a wrong decision. This is a disgrace.
I'm glad you say that, because like it equals itself out. Like at the end of the day, do you know what I mean? Like some decisions are going to go for you, and some decisions are going to go against you. And even for me, like when reflecting on that corner decision or goal kick decision, it's like so many Spurs fans are crying about the fact that it shouldn't have been a corner, blah blah blah, not understanding that we conceded like 90 corners during that game, so you couldn't have scored any of them.
Yeah.
So you can't cry about it too much.
It's also, I think there's one theory that I do agree with, that the bigger teams always get more decisions over the course of the season. I think that is true, because I think was it Wolves last season?
We can all agree that Wolves got absolutely shafted. There was a vote who wanted to keep VAR. 19 teams.
Wolves said no.
We'll continue.
I don't blame them, man. Like they had it so bad, and I think in that sense I go, yeah, the big teams definitely get more advantage, but the big teams overall between themselves, it definitely evens out. There's some decisions that are glaringly obviously bad, and there's some decisions that are less obviously bad, like the Trossard one. Like it wasn't glaringly obvious, but it's a bad decision and it's favoured Arsenal. But Arsenal fans, because the Havertz one potentially feels worse, they're like, with that on a scale, the scale is simple. Did you benefit or not? And if you benefited, then it works out over the course of the season. Anyway, James, I see you. Let's get out.
I know.
Let's talk about referees. He's going. Davida's got 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
What's happening at Arsenal? Because I saw you tweeted, because we had a conversation about you saying you have improved over the last few seasons. This is a few weeks back now, for context. And then I saw your tweet saying we've actually regressed. What's changed?
We have improved. This is really hard to explain, but we have improved in the way we play football. If we had our first 11 now, we would play better football than if we had our first 11 last season, and if we had our first 11 the season before. The problem is we've regressed in terms of the performances over the season have been worse because we haven't had our first 11. And playing last season, overplaying players like White, Saka, Saliba, that's caught up with us. And now we've got so many injuries, not as many as Spurs. So
I wasn't even saying. I was just
no.
quiet.
Not even like that. But I don't want to be rude. There's a Spurs fan here. You have had a worse injury crisis, but the injuries we've suffered and the timing of them have been atrocious. People say, "Oh, we should have signed an attacker in summer." The problem is, otherwise we'd have no left back and left centre mid. So we didn't get many resources to allocate last summer. We got 70 million in this market. That does not get you much. So ultimately, we need an attacker in the same way Spurs need a defender, and it's complete negligence that both boards have just decided. And what annoys me most is that January was such an important month in our season. We had 9 games in January, I think. We had the Carabao Cup, we had the FA Cup, and obviously the Premier League's on the line. We might be essentially out of all 3 competitions because we weren't proactive. If we went out straight away in January and went first 5 days, let's sign an attacker, we could have beaten United. We could have got a better result against Newcastle because we looked toothless in that game. And we could have got over the line against Villa because we had no one on the bench. But we're just waiting. And if we sign someone January the 30th, it might be too late. So what's the point? And that's the problem with the club at the moment, is that we're kind of waiting for these things to happen. If you want to win the big trophies, you have to spend early and then recuperate it later, like Liverpool have.
But it actually does remind me of Liverpool, because like Liverpool have done this season after season where they're one signing away from being really close to being closer than they were before, and they just don't make it. Like for the past 3 seasons, we've needed a centre back. We ain't gonna sign one because that's just how we function. And Arsenal, I thought were gonna not be that way when you bought Calafiori. I thought you were improving your squad in a positive way. But obviously that's just not happened. But away from that for a second, because I do definitely want to talk about this topic, this Odegaard topic, because when he came back after being injured, he was going to drag the team out of the dirt. He's got 4 goals and assists this season in the league. Bruno Fernandes has 11. Context included, Bruno Fernandes has played
11 goals?
No, 5 goals, 6 assists. 11 goals and assists. I think 3 of those are pens, and he's played 6 games more. But in terms of general stats, like Bruno's miles ahead of Odegaard. Talk to me about Odegaard.
He's been poor. There's not much to say about it. What annoys me is the way people swing from. There was a tweet going around recently. I partly incited it, where Odegaard was playing so well, and I suggested where is he in terms of midfielders in the world, and I came to the conclusion top 5 at that moment. And Arsenal fans were saying, I said Jude is better than him, and Arsenal fans turned around and go, "What are you talking about? No way is Jude better than him. Odegaard's second, if not the best midfielder in the world." And now the same guys, weeks later, are saying he should be sold. He's a disgrace of a captain. And I'm like, can we not have a middle ground?
Your fans don't have a middle ground. I'm telling you.
Football fans in general don't, but our fans especially.
Football fans on Twitter don't.
Yes, yeah. Facts. And you have a lot of fans on Twitter. My God, I see more on Twitter than I see on.
Yeah, true. So to answer your question, because Davina's got to go. Odegaard has been very poor this season. I'd assume he would be the first to admit that too. And it doesn't help when the whole attack is kind of relying on him, because since Saka's gone, it's okay, who's going to create for us? And Marino isn't. And as I say, the wingers at the moment, Trossard, Martinelli, these guys aren't exactly creative outlets. So you've got Odegaard, and he's having a down patch of form. And then the rest of the team are going, shit, okay, what do we do?
Yeah, I'm really glad personally that we can put the Bruno Odegaard decision to bed. I think it's quite clear that even in an underperforming Manchester United team, Bruno Fernandes has more impact on that team than Odegaard does on an underperforming Arsenal team.
Not biting.
Is it? No.
Where are you? By the way. Also, where are you in the league table? I'm not hearing any bragging. I did buy.
Ladies are third, bro.
I'm not hearing any bragging from a team in 40
with third in the WSL. I don't know why you're bringing up the.
I love that. He's using every league possible. You can say under 20, under 21,
under 18s are top of the league with 8 points ahead. But Ella Toon scoring hat tricks. Like, bro, don't chat about my team.
Also, you know what he's done there? He's put you in a situation where you can't say anything now because you don't watch the WSL.
Arsenal second in the WSL. Thank you very much.
Well,
Brighton 5-0 Brighton or Fulham 5-0 today. Thank you very much.
Well done to you guys on your WSL trophies. I'll focus on the Barclays Premier League. Right, that's all we have time for. Davina's ducked her way because I was going to go back to Tottenham.
Can I just say, the first half an hour of this pod was Tottenham.
Hey, listen, I wanted to go back to you. I wanted to speak more about Tottenham. Now I'm playing. Next time we get you on, I promise. I mean, how can I promise? I'm not Ange Postecoglou, but I'll try my best. That is on a day where you win a football match. That might be next week. But
I know it's gonna have to be after like a City game or something, you know.
Yeah, because it's pointless to
talk about. Surely you'll beat Leicester.
Surely you can't say that with a straight face.
Who really wants to talk about Tottenham after they beat Leicester? We'll talk about Tottenham after they lose to Leicester. There's narrative. We're trying to build narrative.
There is a narrative. Oh, Tottenham are safe. Tottenham aren't getting relegated.
Maybe we get on that narrative. Anyway, for those of you watching, listening, Spotify, YouTube, whatever it is, make sure you drop a comment if you've enjoyed this. And of course, I also just want to very quickly say, if you're one of the people that's been giving Davina some personal leveled abuse, I'm not having it. We had a few people quote tweet the tweet that we just put out earlier saying like a few things about Davina, like why is she on the pod, and a few personal things. I'm not having it. If you're a listener to this pod and you want to abuse Davina or anyone on the pod, I have no interest in you listening to the pod. 1 less or 10 less or even 100 less listeners does not affect us at all. And also Davina, shout out to you because I'm playing about you ducking a pod because I know you definitely haven't been. But even if you decided not to come on the pod with the amount of shit you've been getting online, I would have said fair enough. So shout out to you. Now go and do your revision at 10:20 p.m. on a Sunday. I don't know, man. Something going on.
After all you just said about
she knows I'm playing. She knows I'm playing.
There's no such thing as a compliment with Nubade. He's got a dick.
Yeah, he's not wrong. He knows me very well. But no, I'm playing. For you guys listening, thank you very much as always, and we'll see you on the next one.